everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So for today's video I'm going to be showing you through my December albums. So let's go ahead and have a look. Okay, I did say albums because it ended up as volume 1 and volume 2 and you'll see why in just a second. This was a new project for me. I've never done this before. When I get to the page where I do my intentions, I'll explain a bit more as to why I did it, because I won't read everything that I journaled out to you. But these are, I'll go through the basics of sort of every page, what I've used, why I did it, etc, etc. And we'll see how we go. So these are the Uniquely Creative D-Ring albums. I love these. I use them for my art journal. I've actually just purchased 2 more. I do love having them plain on the front. I'm still debating perhaps putting something on the front of these, but I didn't want to wait to show you what was in them. I figured I can just show you the covers later if I do change them. So we'll see how that goes. I still have a lot of leftover papers and stuff that I can show you. So this is the front of my book. I have shown you this before. I think I did it in a favourites. This part hasn't changed. It's exactly the same as it was. I am considering still going back, and I'm very rarely ever actually finished with a project. I am still considering going back and adding January 2023 because I did do a couple of days of January in the December days. But you'll see that in just a sec. So that cover was one of my favourites. I love this little pocket in the back here. I just think it's really, it just, that little bit of vellum's really pretty. And then this was my dividers. Now, the part of me that's a completionist really hates that there's one missing because it lives in the other album, but I can live with it. So this was my prompts. What I decided was that there would be days, and you'll see when we get there, that I would not be able to have something to write. It would be a boring day or something would go wrong. So I wanted to have prompts that I could go through that I could just pick something on a day. So that's what these were. I grabbed these off another December daily page, and I just put it in here, printed it out. This was the only thing I think that I ended up typing. Everything else has been kind of made, or written in, sorry. Some of them weren't relevant for what I wanted to do, but I loved having them there. It was just great to refer to them. This was copied. I made it with my Cricut, and you'll see it again because I stuffed it up. So this was a boo-boo one. If you look really closely, you can see where I've made the mistakes. I saw this on, I've got to remember what the shop's called. The shop's actually closed now. I'll link it down below anyway. But it was a shop that I saw and they were going out of business. They're only in the States, and to get this chipboard thing here was going to cost me, the actual thing itself was going to cost me like $1.50 Australian because it's in the States. But it was going to cost me nearly 20 bucks to get it here. So I just made my own, which is fine. This was my little book that I took all my notes in. So what I've done is I've actually sort of put it in my book on a bit of acetate. I've just punched it and then put it so that it actually sort of comes in and out. So if you can just sort of, it's hard to see obviously because it is acetate, but it just slides in and out. This was just my little notebook. It was made using, I think I've shown you guys this before. It was made using the Helen McLean little notebooks. I got this at So Layman. I'm going to get another couple because I really like them. But I'm actually going to use them again for next year because I still have plenty of room, and if I do want to do this again, I'm not going to be able to remember things. So I can continue to use this same book, and I can just move it from this December into next December. But it just slides in there, really easy, and then it keeps with everything else. So this was one of the little bits that I made. This is using a die from Uniquely Creative. It's got a bit of acetate there, and I just stacked the die up. Pretty simple. Got a little page there with some plaid. You'll see plaid a lot in this. And then the dividers are all Uniquely Creative December to Remember, I think. I just took that paper that came with the album because it was a really nice strong cardstock, and I've just added tabs to them. That's all I've done. So what's in this album is sort of stuff that happened pre-December. So for me, this section's called Festive Days. So for me, the big ones are the Christmas pageant that's in Adelaide, and then sort of the putting up of the tree, which we didn't actually do this year, which would have been when we did the pageant, and also obviously taking Charlotte's Christmas photos. So I made myself a little section for the Christmas pageant. So this is all using that beautiful paper, the Merry Merry from Die Cuts with a View, printed out the float list and the map, and put those in as pages. And this is where I start bringing in some photos. So this one's just one photo on its own. All my photos are printed at Kmart. They're so much easier to do that way. You can print them in and you can go big if you want to do a big size. But if you want to do small sizes, you can print them in the 4x6. You can print them in the halves. So what's that? 2x6, 2x4s? 3x4s, can't remember. And then the little 2x3s, that's right. And Ryan does it on Photoshop so that we just send it to Kmart. They do have mini prints that you can do on their website, and they're great. They're just really fiddly. They take a really long time. So if you've got a lot of pictures, I do not suggest doing it. But just grab it in Photoshop, drop them in, and you can do it that way. I'm talking really fast because I'm really excited. So everything's just sort of had like a little bit of a journal thing. So for me, it's why was this important? So just talking about the pageant and why it's special. Put some pictures of some of my favourite pageant floats. If you haven't seen the Adelaide Christmas pageant before, I highly recommend Googling it or YouTubing it, because actually I'll put a link in the description box and you can check it out. I just love the pageant. I grew up with it, so to me it's kind of second nature, but I do get why it's weird for other people. And then on the back I of course have it's a little bit about my favourite float, and then I've got Santa or Father Christmas sort of there. And then we have our little, this was Charlotte's first Santa photo. She did meet him in 2021, but he came to our place. He came sort of it was like a ride through that our estate did. So this was her first time going to see Santa. She didn't take it very well, but have the big beautiful photo. This is the only time that it looks like I actually ran out of things to write. Every other time I kind of found a way. And then this was the last bit, and this is the part that I sort of still feel is a little self-indulgent, but I'm still really happy with it. First of all, I really love that little shaker. But then I've got, these are the uniquely creative, plastic pockets. They actually come with the album when you buy it. And I just printed out a picture of all of the cards that I did, backed them onto some coloured cardstock, and popped them in here. I might write something about all of them. I haven't yet, but they are all there. And that's ready to go when I'm ready to. So we'll see what happens with that. But I just love being able to go back and have them on display. Like, they're in my little book where I keep track of who got what present, got what card at what year. But they're not really on display for anyone else to see, and I'm still really proud of them. So that's why they go in the album. So that's volume 1. This is the December daily part. And I am probably a little bit too proud of this, which is why I kind of feel bad showing you guys, but really good at the same time. I am hoping that everybody in my family / my friends don't mind their pictures being all over Instagram, all over YouTube. Fingers crossed. So this was a title page that I wasn't going to make, but I ended up making because I just needed an extra page once it got into its own album. This is just using bits of That Merry Merry paper pad that I just cut out the little images. I didn't actually come up with the idea myself. It was on the front of the cover of the paper pad, and I loved it, so I just copied it. And then that's got a backing. And then every day was either a photo or something that kind of went to it. So the first day was really simple. We took Charlotte's swimming lessons. That was it. It's got a really simple little December one. That's one of the uniquely creative ones with a bit of ink. Actually, no, it wasn't ink. It was with Distress Glaze. And I wasn't going to do the writing, but in the end it was so much easier, so I just went with it. My handwriting isn't great, but it's not that bad. And then I've used these rub-ons all over the place. These are from 49 and Market, so I'll point them out along the way. So the second one has a bit of a lift up. It's got the wristband from where I went out to dinner. I've got my flight there from Melbourne to Perth. These are the Lawn Fawn, I think the Henry's ABCs. No, Finley's. I don't remember. 3rd of December, flying again. I've got the invitation from the engagement party we went to this night, little photo, and then the journaling. And I've got my boarding pass on the back. And they just slide in here. Oh, my glue's come loose. I can fix that. And I do love that the little gingerbread man just sits out there. That just makes me happy. This is probably my favourite page. No, it's not. It's one of my favourites. So I've got some of the cards again. I know I'm doubling up, but quite happy to do it. So talking about the cards. And then this one, you grab this and you pull it up. And that's where it's got a little bit more journaling about the about the cards. It's the only one that's hard to get back in though. Everything else sort of goes in really nicely, but that one's a bit difficult. There we go. So I said I didn't put up a Christmas tree. We didn't this year, but this was the one outside my work, which I thought was really nice, so I used that one this year for my tree. Charlotte and I were playing on the swings because we were both home. We weren't feeling very well, so we just stayed and played on the swings. This was another one where we didn't really do much this day. I think I was not feeling great again, and you'll see why in the next page. So this is what I'm calling my traditions page. So for us, it's having our Christmas photo taken, so you can see me and my sister as we grew up. They're over like 10 years. And this was why we were sick, because we got COVID. And so that's the rest of this becomes very boring for a week or so, because we just stayed at home. So these are just tags and stuff from that Mary Mary book. This one's using one of the, what is it? Studio Light books. I just chucked a little thing in here. I didn't have a lot to write about this day because we obviously stuck at home with COVID. So I just did a little thing about being thankful, what I was thankful for. And the little ISO days, I've got a little sort of symbol here, and you'll see them sort of pop up in the next ones. This was using that same kit or same paper pad from Studio Light, and the uniquely creative numbers, so just about the cards, Attack of the Grass, and these, oh, sorry, I forgot to do these ones. These are the Concord and Ninth double cut dies that I got. I love them. They're so good. I was talking about them in my favourites the other week. I just adore them. So these are those ones as well. This is just the inside on its own, and this is just the outside on its own. So Attack of the Grass. This is that little, if you remember back to my favourites, I talked about that little paper pad from Vicky Booten and how I love the calendar. I love that I could just put in those things that I knew were happening. As you can see, December was pretty busy. So this was my sort of ISO day 4. So that was sort of what we did. But then this is what I decided to talk about all my plans in this one. I also put down my holiday activities and my Christmas favourites. And I did make a little alteration because it was winter activity and I made it summer. So this was my album intentions page. And just to paraphrase what I've written here, I've never done an album like this before. This was the first Christmas in a long time that I felt like I had something, or first December in a long time that I felt like I had something to actually record. Last year was obviously a bit different because we were still, to a certain extent, isolated. Even though we did have people here for Christmas, it wasn't as big as others. And it was Charlotte's first Christmas, so I wanted to really enjoy it with her. But I really wanted to try this and see if I could do it, which I obviously can. But I've learnt a lot, which I'll come back to in the reflections. So this was the 14th. Charlotte fell asleep in her chair. She must have had the best day at daycare because she was falling asleep in her chair. This day was, again, not a particularly huge kind of day for, ISO day 5. So this was day 6. Nothing particularly exciting happened this day, so I decided to chuck in some pictures of Charlotte at daycare. This was my first day back at work, and it was our Christmas party, so we sort of had that, and we've got all the little info on the back. This one was really simple. All we did was pack, but my friends, Chris and Amanda, came around and gave Charlotte a present, so I got that picture. This was the day we flew out. So this was the 18th. So we've got the view from our hotel, but then I chucked in our boarding passes in here as well. These were only some of the boarding passes because I lost the others. And this was, some of the pages are double spreads. This is one of them. This is from the 19th. Ryan, for my birthday, took Charlotte and I and his mum over to Hamilton Island, which I haven't been there before, so this was really exciting. So we kind of went through that. And then I wanted to put a little bit more journaling, and I ran out of room on the other bit, so I just put them on the back of these two little tags. And then I just put them in a little slider here. So those ones are from the Vicky Booten one as well. And then that just pops up, and I just cut a little bit there so they pop up without having to take them out of the rings. Simple day for the 20th. It's just stuck, and then some journaling. We went exploring, so I've got that. Just one little bit of journaling. Another simple one here too, which I really like. But I love the contrast of that beautiful blue tropical scene and then the darkness of the greens. It's actually kind of cool. We've got this one where just more photos than anything else. And then this one has the little map. I actually used maps a couple of times. I really like maps in these kind of books. It just kind of really points it out. These ones are from Uniquely Creative. A couple of them are throughout this one. So you've got the I was here, and that was our little driving trip. So this was for Christmas, so you've got the fa la la there. So you've got the picture of Grandma and Charlotte. And then we've got one photo, two photos, and then a bit of Christmas memories. So our Christmas this year was very low key, so there wasn't a lot to journal about as like the big family Christmas. It was still a family Christmas, but it was a bit more low key. So that was sort of about the day, and then this was sort of Christmas memories and things like that. And I love that that page sits on its own, that it's not overly decorated. It's very simple, and I love it. So on Boxing Day, we went up on the Coranda Railway, and then on the Skyrail, I think that's what it's called. So we took lots of photos. Oh goodness, come on. It keeps getting stuck. There it is. So we got the little information thing, which I wanted to keep. I'm one of these weird people that when we go on holidays, I keep everything. So that goes in there. We've got photos, and the journaling's down the side. And then I used those Tim Holtz, and again showed these are my favourites. The Tim Holtz dies to make the little envelope, and then have an extra place to put some more photos. This one's actually kind of funny. So the 27th was really quiet, and the 28th was huge. So this day's the 27th, this day's the 28th, but I just chucked in the map from the 28th in underneath. I was going to have it the other way, but then I couldn't get it out because of the rings. So we've gone this way, and it does work. So as long as you sort of know it's there. There's no journaling on it or anything though. It's just a couple of extra photos and the map. So that goes in there. And then the journaling for the 28th is all on the back of these photos. So I just popped them in there. 1, 2, and 3. So I like that they are sort of interactive and they sort of pop out. This was my favourite day. This was my favourite day. This is where we went diving. First time we've been scuba diving in like 3 years. So we've got 1 about dive 1, 2 about dive 2, and 3 about dive 3. Little map of where we went, a bit more of a overview of sort of what we did, and that just slides out the bottom. And then you've got the extra photos that I took in those little cards that slide out. And I just love the little cards. I think they're really cool, and I love having them there. And then I just added in some bubbles with some embossing powder just to add in a little bit of shininess. The 30th, and you can see there's a slight sort of coloration difference. You sort of go from the really Christmassy ones as we're really in Christmas, and then as we come out, even just into the 28th, like you start to see these blues. And then these are still Christmas papers, but they're blue, and I've kind of kept that thing going, that now you're sort of less Christmas, more, there's still Christmas to it, but they're less that traditional Christmas. So we went exploring bits of Cairns, so I put all those things on there. We went into the city, so they're there too. This is using Uniquely Creative paper. It's very pretty. Went to the lagoon. That is one of the best lagoons I've ever been to. It was really, really good. I went to the aquarium, so you've got all the photos there, and then you can pull the map out, and it's got all the journaling on the inside here. That might be the only piece of paper that's not actually technically Christmas. I think everything else was. Oh no, this one wasn't. There you go, there's one that's not. This one was a bit more simple as well. Wasn't a lot to say, so it's just 2 little bits of cardstock that just slide in there. Don't quite know how I got that photo of Charlotte, but it's a very pretty one and I love it. And then this last one, we've got the little tag moves up so that you've got the ability to pull all of the boarding passes out. I didn't like where they sat, so I just tagged in the other bit, so that sits in there. And then on the back of this is just it's basically just a pretty one, and that's because there was the pin in the back and I needed to cover it up. But then this was the sort of reflections part of it. I wanted to have a page that sort of addressed the intentions and what did I learn and how did I do it. And I really loved, this is again kind of summarising what's here. I really loved doing this, but I found it really hard when I was away. I took a bunch of stuff, probably far too much, with the intention of doing it, but it's really hard for me to create not in my space. I really prefer to create in here. I feel like I have everything I need. Whereas even I had to set it all up, and then you were in the dining room table, and then we had to move it for dinner, and it was just so hard. So I just didn't bother. So I think that was maybe where I struggled. I just couldn't do it while we were away. So I had to wait till we came home. And then obviously this is a big project. It's not something that takes 5 minutes. Sticking it in took 3 or 4 days. Writing all the stuff took 3 or 4 days, maybe longer. And then putting it all together and actually decorating it took a long time. So it took me about a month. I finished it just before the end of January. But I'm so proud of the result. I feel like next year or this year, if I do it again, I'll try and do some base pages or a bit more base pagey. But I also find that really difficult because for me, I like to change my setup depending on the days, and I don't know what's going to come. Like there was no way I was going to know I was going to get COVID, and I was going to have to do all sort of reflections parts. Like these are the only 2 ones that don't have a single photo on it. Everything else does. And they're 2 days that we were stuck in ISO and couldn't do anything about anything. So you kind of get the point. But I do really love this, and I feel like I definitely will do something like it again. I don't know whether it'll be quite this big. I don't know if it'll be quite this detailed. Kind of depends what we end up doing next December. But they are my 2 December albums for 2022. I will list as much detail as I can down below, as in like what are the main paper packs that I used, the albums, of course, the inserts. But if there's anything that you see that you want to know where did you get that from, let me know and I will link it. I will let you know. You can obviously grab me in the comments. You can find me on any of my socials. I'd love to know if you guys do December albums and how you find it and how you maybe prepare so that the actual December part's not so complicated. So if you want to leave me some tips, I would be really appreciative of those. Again, comments or over on socials. If you enjoyed this video, please give it that big old thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Won't be any more looking through December albums until at least next year, but I do have coming up in the next sort of month or so. I'll go back through my last 6 months of weekly planner decorations if that's something you would like to look at. So yeah, that'll be the next sort of looking back thing that I'll do here on my channel. I hope you guys have an absolutely awesome rest of your day, and I will catch you again in my next video. Sending lots of huggles. Bye!